Welcome. In this presentation, we will talk about our group project for SER 215. We were required to choose a game, such as a board game, card game, or other, and implement it in Java using object-oriented programming concepts. In this video, we will discuss the overview of the game, our code, and the additional features we added or could have added to the game. Our planning phase consisted of deciding on a game, deciding on what features we wanted to add to the game, as well as creating the use case and class diagrams for our source code. The game we chose was Hangman. We wanted to implement the classic Hangman game with a computer versus user mode. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. A random word is generated from a pre-made word list. The user then attempts to guess the word by choosing the letters. The user wins if the word is guessed correctly before the hangman is fully drawn out. The user loses if the hangman is drawn before the word is guessed completely. In terms of rules, the user is allowed 6 bad guesses. The user has the options to choose another word to guess, give up, or even quit the game. For our use case diagram, our two actors are the computer and the user. The computer selects the word from the word list and checks to see if the game is over. The user has the ability to quit, give up, guess a letter, and choose another word. For our class diagram, we needed a hangman class that generates and handles the game, a display class to handle the graphics portion of the game, a button handler class to handle the event of the user selecting a letter or clicking a button option, and a word bank class that handles generating the word for the game. We will now discuss the code portion of our project.
The code contents of the project consists of one package, 2 classes, and 385 lines of code, one word list, and one background image. When the game is started, the game window is created using the Hangman method. This generates the letter buttons, the menu buttons, the background, the letter spacers, and the initial graphics to start the game. The word is randomly chosen from the word bank, and the game begins. The player can choose from several options. They can choose from one of the letter buttons. They can choose the another word button. The player can choose the give up button, or the player can choose the quit button. When a player clicks the letter button, several things take place. First, the game checks to see if the letter exists in the chosen word. If the letter does not exist in the chosen word, it adds a 1 to the bad guesses counter. If the letter does exist in the chosen word, it then displays the corresponding space in the frame with the correct letter. This takes place on the repaint frame, which fills the chosen letter button green if it's a good guess and red if it's bad. It also disables the button as well. Bad guesses also add a body part to the hangman. After that, the isGameOver method is called, and if all the letters have been matched, this equals a win. If the bad guesses counter is set to 6, this is a loss. And if bad guesses is set to 99, this equals that the player has given up. So is game over if it returns true. An alert window is loaded and the word is revealed, ending the game in either a win or a loss. And if it's false, the game continues and waits for the next letter. When a player clicks the another word button, this calls the start game method. This restores the original state of the game with a new word loaded. This resets all the letter buttons, counters, and graphics to their original state. When the player clicks the give up button, the game sets the bad guesses counter to 99. On repaint frame, it adds all the body parts to the hangman. When it checks to see if the game is over, it reads it as a give up. sets to true, and an alert window titled Give Up is loaded, and the word is revealed, ending the game. Finally, when the player clicks the Quit button, the game closes the frame and stops running.
And here's our game in action. As you can see, we have our three options at the top here, the play area, and the letter bank down below.
Now we're going to talk about the attempted game additions for the Hangman game. We wanted to create a category menu, which was basically just a J-frame with 10 different options of word categories for the user to choose from. Could be anything from the capitals, colors, countries, dogs, Java, NBA, NFL, national parks, poets, and sports. As you can see here on the right, here's a picture of the J-frame that we created. Here's the example of the category class, which was created, basically made of a J-frame composed of 10 different J buttons, which the user would select to pick the type of category of word list they'd want to use for the Hangman game, composed of then listeners that would get the button and return the category based on user preference. Also, it would be able to calculate if a certain button was selected, then the program would know which word list type to import in order to have the correct words for the category. But we got it so far that we have the J-frame, but we need some modifications are still needed for this portion, so that is why it's not in our final game. Currently it runs automatically and is set to the default word list, which is composed of any words, not necessarily per category. Possibly a fix to this would be to have the game pause and resume, maybe using like a thread, additional listeners, to have the user select the game, and then we can determine which category they would want to use. Right now it does populate based on the button that is selected, but that doesn't, it occurs after the game is already open so that the appropriate category is not loaded. Possibly, and then having the game would repeat so that category window would come up every time the user would want to add more games, more words, or change category based on if they couldn't figure out the word, or if they wanted to switch modes, if we were able to do like a one player versus a two player game mode. Next, we will talk about additional features we would want to add in the future.
For the future of Hangman, we think the following features would enhance the current state of the game and make it more enjoyable for the player. Additions of a hint button, two-player mode, and the ability to guess a phrase will add more depth to the game. During the testing of the game, we discovered that it was difficult for some of the players. Therefore, we believe a hint button would be a useful feature to add to the game. We would limit the number of hints for the player to 3, in order to keep the player from using the hint button to solve the entirety of the word. The hint button would be displayed while playing the game and also list the number of hints remaining. When the user clicks the hint button, the program will find one correct letter that has not been guessed at that time and add it to the word being guessed. It will also highlight the corresponding letter in green in the letter bank and update the amount of hints that remain. The addition of a two-player mode will allow a player to play along with a friend against each other. This mode will first let player 1 input a word and then create a Hangman game with that word. Player 2 will then play the game as normal. After player 2 has played the game to completion, either by giving up, guessing incorrectly 6 times, or winning the game, it will then ask if the players would like to continue or quit. If the players would like to play again, the game would ask player 2 for a word and create a Hangman game with that. This would continue as long as the players desire. Because the feature would be taking inputs from the user, we would need to make sure proper data validation is in place. As the game only uses letters, we need to make sure only alphabetic characters are present in the given word. If there is an issue with the given word, the game will pop up an error window and let the players input another word. We also need to make sure the user has input only one word unless we add the following feature. Allowing phrases into the game would open up many possible game scenarios. As discussed by Sarah, we attempted to add a categories menu to the Hangman game. If we can design the game to allow multiple words, we can add many more categories to the list, such as movie quotes, state capitals with the state included, full names for various categories related to people, and many more. We think these features would be a great addition to the game and provide more fun to the user. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video about our game, Hangman. We hope you enjoy playing it.